Hello, everybody out there. Happy Friday! Tonight we have our second Horror Friday. My name is Isabela Rangel, and this is my partner in the scene and host tonight, Richard Burgin.
Thank you, Isa.
Tonight we will talk about the movie Audition. It was made in Japan in 1999 and directed by Takashi Miike. Audition tells the story of a man named Aoyama who decides that he wants to get in a new relationship 7 years after losing his wife. Aoyama creates a fake audition for a movie he doesn't plan on making, so he can meet women and choose which one he wants to be dating. There is one woman at the audition who catches Aoyama's eye. Her name is Asami. Now warning! If you haven't seen this movie, stop listening right now. If you listen to the rest of the episode, go watch it. If you think you can handle it. The plot takes a very dark turn as Aoyama gets to know Wasami better. He discovers that she's not the shy and naive girl that she seems to be.
That's putting it mildly.
Yes. Oh my God. You know, this movie is so full of surprises.
Oh, yeah.
So slowly start to developing and giving us clues about things that are going to happen.
If anything, I think people should watch it without even looking at the DVD cover or the streaming cover because that gives too much away because the cover has like a picture of Asami looking very sinister. So I'm like, people should go into this movie blindfolded. That's my take on it. Like, don't even look at the poster.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Because you don't wanna, you cannot tell what is coming.
Oh no.
Not for it looks like a normal Japanese film, and it has like different. There is different types of scenes, so they have comedy, they have, during the audition part, there is a little...
Oh, that scene is hilarious.
Yes, it is. One woman gets naked. The other one is dancing, so they're trying the best to show all their abilities, these women.
And all of these women seem so normal, too, in their own ways. It's like they're eccentric, but normal, but Aoyama is not impressed by the other 29 women who audition. He only wants Asami, and he has his mind made up before the audition even starts because she sent in an essay that she wrote, and that planted the seeds of attraction in his head.
Yeah. She said she couldn't do ballet anymore because she had an injured in her hip. One thing I thought is like he probably connected to her in a deeper level because he lost his wife.
Oh yeah.
So, and she did like some kind of analogy saying, oh, because this happened to my hip, so and then I had to quit ballet, so that was like dying. She mentioned something like that, and he thought about, oh, my wife died and I had to go through that. So
he felt a deep connection to her.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, so that's how, he started on this. And then he looked at the picture, and then she seemed like a very shy girl, very conservative, submissive.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he really liked that.
And the director, Takashi Miike, said that he cast the actress to play Asami because he said she thought she had an unusual face, and that wasn't something that I thought about before while I was watching it, but I can kind of see that she does give off that kind of uncanny vibe. Like, she looks like kind of almost normal, but there's something kind of subtly off about her appearance and the way she talks and the way she's shot in the movie that it's hard to put into words, but there's something kind of subtly unsettling about Asami.
Yeah, and also the way she looks, right? She gives that smile, which is a little bit creepy, and
it's a very shy smile.
It is.
And she speaks very quietly. And that was the first thing I noticed during the audition scene is when she gets up there, she's very... Like you can tell the audio levels go down a couple notches.
Yeah.
And normally that would bother me in a movie because I like the audio to be consistent, but I think it really fits for her character because she's, it's showing that she's very shy and you can kind of get the sense that, she's kind of damaged because she doesn't want to assert herself on stage like all the other women who auditioned.
Yeah, the other women, they wanted to show the best of their abilities,
Absolutely.
because they were thinking, this is for a role in this film.
Yeah.
And she was just like very wearing those clothes, white clothes.
White dress.
Yes, covering all her body, most of it.
Yeah.
She just sat there, and she was very, in herself, and very shy and very... Yeah, that was interesting. So let me touch some points on it. So the scene that they showed a sack, that was like, what is this?
Oh yeah.
So that was already foreshadowing. That
What's gonna happen?
Yeah, and there's another scene that she gives like a creepy smile. There's a shot of her hair, and then you can see
the hair is covering her face.
Yeah.
You can only see I think just her ear.
And the smile.
And the smile.
Like that very creepy smile, And then she's listening,
waiting for him to call her.
Yes.
And I like how there are several shots inside her apartment, and it's this very stark set, and I think it's just like a tatami mat on the floor. And so in the first shot of her apartment, it looks very bare. And then in the second shot of her apartment, there's this big sack in the background, but it's in the background and it's not really focused on in the shot. It's just kind of there, just this big burlap sack. And then in the third shot of her apartment, her phone is ringing. She's sitting there legs crisscrossed on the floor, just waiting for the phone to ring. And then the burlap sack moves in the background. It just moves on its own.
And that's very creepy.
And then it's such a brilliant shot because immediately, and this is the first indication of any horror that's coming. And it's so, subtle, it just kind of moves suddenly, and then you're like, what the fuck?
Yes, what's going on,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but the friend also tells him, the filmmaker, there's something wrong with her, and he can tell that.
Yeah, he said, she makes me nervous. That was his first comment on Asami at the audition. But Aoyama, he didn't want to listen to any warnings. He wanted to see Asami as being who he wanted her to be.
Yes. So there's a point, in this movie that, he ignored all the red flags, So there's a point about that they start showing his memory, the things that he remember, and then all seems so fine, the things that the projection, the answers that he wanted her to answer.
Oh, yeah.
When he asked about her family, and then she says, they live far, But then
they didn't want to know about her family.
No, the reality, when the truth is completely different versus what he remembers. So he does this projection of what he wants to see. That's what he wants to see, That's what he wanted her to answer. So the first shots, we see that, what he wanted her to answer. And then, once he get drugged by her, they start showing the scenes how it was really
What really happened.
what really
yeah.
happened, you know.
And that is such a brilliant scene, his hallucination after he gets drugged. And then before we go into that, there is foreshadowing before that happens, which I didn't notice the first time I watched the movie, but there are a number of shots in Audition that are focusing on Iowama's whiskey glass, showing him leaving the door open to his house. And all of that, you know, it's not really given much attention in the movie, but it's already kind of showing that he's setting things up by not locking his door and by leaving this whiskey glass sitting out. He's setting things up for her to break into his house and drug him.
Yeah, he seems like, so there is that scene in the hotel, you know, that she showed him the scars in her legs. That was when I'm like, there's something really wrong with this woman.
Oh yeah, no, that is like, and then in that scene, he's like, because they're on like this little
Hotel
vacation
yes.
at a hotel by the beach, and then he says, hey, do you want to go out? Like, we can go to the harbor for dinner, and she doesn't say anything. She just stands there silent. Then she takes her clothes off and
yes.
lies down in bed, and she shows him these two giant scars on her leg. And that's, yeah, when you really start wondering, like, what's going on with Asami, you know, what's her story.
Yes. And then she disappears.
She disappears right after that night.
Right after that night. And then he was wondering, oh, where is she? What's going on? You know, and then he finally starts investigating.
And I love that, you know, he could have done a background check on her, like, right away, but he didn't because he was in love with her. And so he didn't want to look too closely. Because they actually say early on in the movie that, like, her old boss has gone missing. And that's briefly mentioned early on in the
yes.
movie, but it's not given a lot of attention. So he could have, you know, looked into that. He could have actually tried to talk to people who know her, but he didn't do any of those things until after she disappeared. He didn't want to do any kind of background check because he didn't want to spoil the illusion of her being who he wanted her to be.
Yeah, the projection. And then there is, in that scene, one scene that they are at the restaurant, he asked her, where does she work? You know, and then she says she works in this bar at the Ginza district. And then she was like, but my boss doesn't like if I have visitors, you know, because he thinks about going to see her at work, which is normal. That was very weird for me too, you know. I'm like, there's something wrong with this girl. I could definitely tell that, you know, from that scene, because why she wouldn't want him to visit her at work.
And then he does eventually go to the bar where she worked, and that's a really great, creepy scene. He's walking down the stairs to the bar, which is in the basement of this building, and then when he gets to the basement, he asks, is the bar, the Stone Fish, still open? And then the person he's talking to says, no, they closed it down last year. The owner was murdered.
Oh my God. And then they found like a random finger
and tongue on the floor.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, where are these people? I mean, where all this come from, you know? It was not from the murder lady, it was from somebody else.
And it was just left there on the floor.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And then
that's very bizarre. Yeah, what was the most bizarre thing in the movie? What do you think was the... You don't want to get to the climax yet.
No,
right?
Not to the climax. Yeah,
not to the climax. But what do you think was the most bizarre thing in the whole film?
Well, about 10 minutes after he's in the basement at the bar that closed down, and we see the fingers and tongue on the floor. About 10 minutes after that, he discovers where the fingers and tongue are missing from.
Oh my God, yeah.
And we also discover what was in the burlap sack in Asami's apartment. And as it turns out, it's this guy who has his fingers and tongue and feet missing.
Yeah.
And she's keeping him in the burlap sack and feeding him from a dog bowl.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like if he's an animal, that's probably her ex-boss.
Yeah.
The one that went missing.
That's the guy who went
18
missing.
months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, she's like, and she has pleasure to do that, to torture him, to keep him as an animal. We can definitely see that.
Oh, yeah.
She's a psychopath,
Well, the really interesting thing is that this torture is Asami reenacting what was done to her while she was younger. And then also in that hallucination scene after Aoyama gets drugged by Asami, he starts remembering that she told him all this stuff about how she was abused for her entire childhood, and her stepfather was a ballet teacher who gave her the scars on her leg because he burned her.
Yeah.
And so, Asami is a terrible person, but I can sympathize with why she is like that, because she's doing what was done to her.
Yeah, she always knew abuse.
That's all she knows.
Childhood abuse,
Yeah.
Her stepfather was also abusive.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very hard for her, and that's all she knew,
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, kids end up repeating what they grow up with. And that's why parenting is so important, because if you grow up with a terrible childhood, that's going to cause a lot of problems for you as an adult. Most people with terrible childhoods don't grow up to be like Asami.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that all people who are, doing this torture and murder of random people as adults, they all had some kind of trauma while they were younger, or something happened to them to make them be like that. Because a sociopath who has a good childhood will probably be, they'll probably commit some kind of crimes, but they won't become a serial killer.
Yeah. Actually, it's not all psychopaths that are serial
killers.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And I've heard about that. I think I told you about that. Some news that I was listening at BBC that talks about different types of psychopaths, and some of them, you still can be a psychopath and don't be a serial killer, or don't kill anyone.
Yeah, of course. They'd probably just be like screwing people over some other way, but not killing anyone.
Yeah.
Which is a much better alternative.
Yeah, and also there is that scene where he goes to her old ballet classes, the school of ballet that she used to go to.
And that's abandoned now, too.
Yes, and then the teacher was playing piano, and he didn't have his feet. And then when she mentioned, he asked it about Wasami, and it's like, how is she? Did you teach her? And then he was laughing.
And this guy is really creepy. He just starts talking about sex with Asami right away.
He is. He's very creepy. And he starts laughing and all that, and we know something is up. Something is wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong, And what was your favorite scene?
I think my favorite scene is when the burlap sack moves in the background, because that's such a brilliant shot. It's very, it's done without calling any attention to itself.
Yeah.
It's just because everything up until that point is very kind of benign in the movie. There's nothing horror-like. But then it's suddenly, you're like, why is this burlap sack moving on its own?
Yeah. And then I feel for for him. I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. And then at certain point they give us some reliefs because they went back in the past. And then he's back in bed with her, and then he touched his feet. Okay, I still have my feet.
That was just a dream, unfortunately.
That was just a dream. And then he was probably thinking, why I didn't listen to myself, my instinct. Why?
And what everybody kept telling him, what his friend kept telling him.
Yeah, because, how I didn't realize that something was up with this girl,
Oh, yeah. And then before we start talking about the torture scene at the end, which most people have read about this movie in advance, have heard about the torture scene.
Mm-hmm.
But Aoyama has a teenage son who's also starting, a new relationship with a girl at his school. And one detail about Aoyama's son that I didn't notice until my third time watching Audition is that his son never actually meets Asami until the very end. And then he walks right in, to Asami torturing his dad on the floor of their house. And then the first thing he says is, "Who are you?" So I thought that was really interesting that Aoyama never introduced Asami to his son. And it was his son's idea.
Yeah.
For him to get a new girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because he thought his dad seemed lonely. So I thought it was interesting that he kept this relationship hidden from his son.
I guess it was the beginning of the relationship, because they only hang out a few times,
Yeah.
Yeah, but he seemed so happy, with her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely I see that, the true versus the memory, so we select our memory. So he just, Ioma, he only wanted to remember what he thought was what he thought was true, his projection.
Yeah.
Of her, only the good things, he only wanted to keep the good memories. And then when he started seeing like, oh my God, she drugged me. Oh my God, this is really happening. Then he started remembering.
And I love how they do that in the movie, that it's only after she drugs him that he's like, oh yeah, I remember this now, what she told me before about being abused repeatedly as a child.
Yeah, and she mentioned like, oh, you are like all the other guys. You probably hang out with all the women in the audition. So she has a projection too.
Yeah.
She has that value set in her mind. Oh, that's how all men are. They are, they are bad guys,
And I think she wanted Aoyama to be different at first, because she wanted to be happy with him too. And then I think she couldn't get over her own trauma, yeah, and so she started projecting all of this onto him. And there was a commentary track for Audition that we listened to, where like this critic from the Netherlands was saying that she cuts off Aoyama's foot because her ballet teacher, her stepfather, was, he was in a wheelchair, he didn't have any feet, so she wanted to make Aoyama into him, and so she was projecting that onto him in her mind, is that Aoyama is just like this guy who abused me repeatedly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cut off his feet, so then he'll really be like him.
Yeah, the torture scene, that was when she had she was having an orgasm with the torture scene, because you could see in her face how much pleasure she was having on torturing.
That was the only time she was really happy in the movie.
Yes, in the whole movie, because all the other scenes she seemed so so shy and so
and sad,
herself. Yeah. So, but she was so happy in torture. Iwoma, and then she calmly tell him, Just a little bit.
Oh yeah, kitty, 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 kitty,
Yes.
kitty, kitty.
That was the only time, when she was happy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, but I guess that's the only time she was really in control.
Yeah. That is probably what she wanted, make sure, nothing bad was going to happen to her. And she knows the abuse.
That she's the one doing the abuse now.
Yeah.
And she's getting, kind of symbolic revenge against the people who tortured her when she was growing up.
Yeah.
Although, unfortunately, Iowama is innocent in this. He did not do it. He did the fake audition, so he's not completely innocent, but he didn't do anything torturous to her.
No, he didn't. And he seemed like a very respectful man,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't seem like someone who would torture her.
Definitely not.
None of that, or hang out with multiple women. He didn't seem like that.
No. I don't think he could have imagined the torture that was going to happen to him when he met her. That was outside the realm of possibilities in his mind.
Oh, yeah, no. He could not imagine that. And then the scene that she was cutting the feet.
Yeah,
that was
hilarious
wire. Too. Yes. You gotta have stomach to watch that.
Oh, yeah. No, it's kind of and it's interesting when you're watching something like that, it's so grotesque and intense, but then, we were kind of laughing too, so it's kind of interesting how, those kind of reactions are linked. Where you're disgusted, but you're also laughing.
Yeah, at the same time. And I remember one scene that stuck to me when she was cutting the foot, and then the foot went on the glass.
Yeah, it just went flying off.
Yes. That was really funny. Because we know how they do these horror films.
Yeah.
The prosthetics and everything they use.
No, there's no guarantee that anybody else watching this would laugh. We might just be sick.
No, because we know how all these things work.
That's true.
We have been in the set of these horror films, so we have a different vision of it, So I remember, looking at the, this fake stuff, fake hands and fake feet that they use in the movies. So when I saw that, the feet going on the glass, and I'm like, okay, so that was a fake feet.
Oh, yeah, it's a fake foot flying away.
Fake foot, yes. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to say anything else about that last scene, about the climax?
Oh, yeah, so then when Iowama's son comes home...
Oh, yeah.
And he discovers Asami torturing his dad, and then he says, "Who are you?" And then she chases him up the stairs, and then they're fighting, and then she falls down the stairs and breaks her neck.
He kicked her.
Yeah.
That's how she dies, yeah. And that was really fast, and then you can see the neck, the protuberance in the neck, and then oh, okay. So she broke the neck. Finally, because I was still thinking, oh, they're gonna have a fight or something else. And then she's gonna get the boy.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, in most horror movies, she wouldn't actually be dead.
Yeah, because normally the villain always takes forever to die.
Oh, yeah. Freddy Krueger never dies.
He never dies. It's amazing. Everything bad happened to them. They got injured multiple times.
It's indestructible.
Never die, yeah.
So I kind of like how in the ending of Audition, Asami is actually shown to be pretty fragile, since she dies just from getting kicked down the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, how fast she just died,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm glad she didn't attack his son,
Oh, she tried, but she
tried.
Didn't succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and the movie was very well made,
No, it's a really wonderful movie, and I hope anybody who's listening to this who hasn't watched it wants to watch it now, because Audition is Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
It is. It's a great film. Okay, so if you are a writer and you would like to have your story read here in our channel, please email us your story. So our email is the Cinesin Show at gmail.com. We will be pleased to read your story online.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like us? Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. That would be great to have you as a member. Spread our creepiness to friends and family. So that's it for today.